Act Smart: How to Make Decisions and Achieve Extraordinary Results, by Darren Bridger and David Lewis. Narrated by Pete Cross. Introduction. Every day, we analyze situations, tackle problems, make choices, take decisions, act upon them. This audiobook shows you how to do all of these things better. We'll explain how to use techniques developed by psychologists, mathematicians, business consultants, sports competitors, and even military strategists. There are mind-training exercises and self-assessments, as well as background information to inform and entertain. All of these tools can help you to use your mental powers more effectively. Facing challenges. Occasionally, a situation will demand an intense response. If we see a poisonous snake in our path, we don't spend a lot of time weighing up options. But most situations are much more complex than this, and demand a variety of reasoning skills. Even an everyday decision, such as choosing a vacation, can involve a surprisingly complex process. Estimating risks, weighing up options, considering the needs of others, and predicting how we might feel in different locations. Sometimes an area of life, work, family life, or even leisure time, can give rise to problems that can be difficult to tackle or solve. You might find that you can't manage a situation effectively with your usual strategies, or even that it presents you with an entirely new dilemma. In these circumstances, you might well need extra mental tools. This audiobook will guide you through every stage of a challenge so that you can work your way to an appropriate conclusion. Focusing your mind. As a starting point, you'll need a variety of mental skills to help you analyze the situation. First, you need to be able to focus, to use your mind like a camera to obtain the best view of the problem. There are times when your focus will have to be pin sharp, but at other times you may need to take a wide-angle view, or to adjust your thinking so that you look deeper into the background of an issue. The first 2 chapters show you different ways in which you can draw on both logical reasoning and more creative, intuitive thought, so that you'll be able to cope successfully with a wide range of situations. Decisions. Every choice brings unique opportunities, but also costs. For every option that you take, there will be one or more others that you have to reject. The worry about making the right choice, or the suspicion that a discarded option might actually have been better, can make decision-making fraught with anxiety and lead to regret. You can do one of 2 things when decision-making. Exhaustively consider every possible choice in the quest for the perfect answer, or search just until you find a good enough option. In confining yourself to looking for the perfect answer, there's a risk that you might expend a disproportionate amount of time and energy, and perhaps still not attain your ideal, when all you need is simply a workable solution. The more elements there are for you to weigh up in your mind, the more skillful you'll need to be to narrow down your options to a precise course of action. You may have to take into account all kinds of conditional factors. You'll do X if this happens and Y if that happens. But without a clear set of steps that can lead you to a decision, it's easy to become entangled in a web of confusion. Making these choices may at times seem like hard work, but the alternative is worse. As the philosopher Bertrand Russell wrote, "Nothing is so exhausting as indecision, and nothing is so futile." Thinking straight. Effective decision-making doesn't always come naturally. However, it can be learned and improved. To start with, you need a clear perception of the facts. If you fail to check your assumptions, then no matter how good your reasoning, you could be misguided. You're equipped with a range of inbuilt reflexes emotional responses, and reasoning skills, which are often useful but can sometimes lead to errors of thinking. By learning how to recognize and avoid these biases, you can keep your mind clear and your perceptions accurate. Recognizing when there's one route to success and when there are many, even knowing when not to decide, are all part of the decision-making process, as is a judicious assessment of the risks. And as with any type of mental process, it's important not to let stress or anxiety sabotage your thinking, a vital point on which Chapter 5 offers a wealth of practical guidance. A samurai was traditionally supposed to be able to arrive at any decision within the space of 7 breaths. While you might not achieve or even need such clarity, with the help of this audiobook, you can discover the benefits of sharper, more assured decision-making. Time for action. Do you want to know who you are? Don't ask, act. Thomas Jefferson, 1743 to 1826. Some people spend an inordinate time analyzing situations without ever making concrete decisions. Others make good decisions but then fail to act on them. Procrastination, flagging motivation, and waiting for the right moment can all prevent us from taking action. So can fear. Fear of the consequences. Many reasonable and valid actions have a downside: fear of change or fear of others' reactions. To overcome these obstacles and turn your decisions into effective action, you'll need to define a clear goal, have a well-crafted plan of action, manage your time efficiently, and break out of inertia to create a new habit of action. By mastering these necessary skills, you'll be able to achieve your objectives as easily and effectively as possible. Stretch yourself. Whether you wish to work through the whole audiobook or simply dip into sections that interest you, we hope that you'll find this a fascinating, enlightening, and instructive practical guide to the most valuable tool you have at your disposal: your own mind. Your resources and your potential capabilities go far beyond what you might imagine. Learn to stretch yourself a little. You'll never regret it. 1. Focus and concentration. To tackle any decision or take any action, it's essential for you to be able to focus your thinking effectively. However, narrow, single-minded concentration isn't the best option in every situation. This chapter shows you how you can benefit from changing mental gear to respond to different circumstances. There are exercises to help you discover your preferred style of thinking, and to teach you how best to use both analytical and creative thinking to get results. Lastly, there are guidelines on multitasking and on setting priorities for your activities. Focusing effectively. Problem solving, decision-making, and action all need to start with the right level of focus. To tackle all the possible aspects of a project or plan, you'll need to be able to switch between different types of focus, from constructive daydreaming to intense concentration. The 4 levels of focus. The mind has 4 main levels of focus, a bit like the gears of a car. These levels result from different patterns of brain activity. You naturally make use of all 4, but it's also possible for you to change gear consciously. The mind's gears. During the last century, scientists researching the brain identified 4 main electrical frequency bands which we use in thinking. As we think, large clusters of brain cells emit rhythmic electrical pulses. The faster the rhythms, the more concentrated the thinking. These frequency bands can be seen as the gears of the mind. Gear 1. slow activity, theta brain state, occurs during sleeping and daydreaming. Focus is almost completely inward. Gear 2, medium activity, alpha brain state, relaxed alertness, mainly focused inward but prepared for action. Gear 3, fast activity, beta brain state, concentration and intellectual challenge. Gear 4, very fast activity, high beta brain state, intense concentration which can easily turn into anxiety. Gears 1 and 2 are great for creative thinking and for tapping into your intuition because they enable you to reach into your subconscious and combine ideas from different brain regions. Gears 3 and 4 are the best choices for logical thinking and for close attention to specific issues. Changing down. To drop down to gears 2 or 1, find somewhere you won't be disturbed. Close your eyes lightly and relax. Keep your breathing slow and deep, at 4 breaths per minute for 60 seconds. The most helpful situations include taking a bath or shower, walking or sitting or lying down. Slow, soothing music will help you change down to first gear. Changing up. To move up to gears 3 or 4, sit upright and breathe slightly faster, say 16 to 24 breaths per minute for 1 minute. Small amounts of caffeine, such as coffee or cola, can give you a quick boost. However, beware that your focus doesn't go into overdrive and become anxiety. Maintaining concentration. Later on in the audiobook, we'll see how directed daydreaming can help you in making choices. But when you're actually analyzing or solving a specific problem, you have to be able to concentrate. To help you maintain your mental focus, there are 3 principal aspects that you'll need to control. Decisiveness. You need to know when to make an instant decision and when it's better to take your time, like choosing a fast or slow shutter speed on a camera. If you're feeling swamped with choices, try not to jump blindly into action or to procrastinate. Ask yourself whether it would be right to decide or act now or better to wait and take into account all the possibilities. If you're ready for an instant solution, turn your mind up to 4th gear and go for it. Persistence. Not all problem solving can take place instantly. For some challenges, you'll need time to come up with a solution, and will have to maintain a longer-term focus on them. Set aside time each hour, day, or week, as appropriate, for a blast of high focus on your issue. Try not to go over and over old ground. Each blast should result in a move forward. Between blasts, your subconscious mind will be working away on the issue, noting any new information that could be pertinent. Purpose. To maintain a high level of concentration, especially for complex tasks, you need to eliminate distractions from your surroundings so you can keep your mind on what you're supposed to be doing. The smallest things can disrupt your thoughts. A song on the radio, for instance, might go around and around in your head, triggering random ideas and memories, which might then arouse emotions, which might give rise to further thoughts, and so on. Learn to notice when your thoughts are drifting, particularly if they become negative. As soon as this happens, tell yourself, stop, and bring your focus back to the task at hand. This works because it's impossible to hold 2 ideas in your mind simultaneously. The word, stop, disrupts the distracting train of thought. For a stronger effect, try wearing a rubber band around your wrist and snapping it gently on your skin whenever you think, stop. Don't worry if you don't achieve perfect results straight away. It may take repeated attempts, but you'll become better at it over time. Map your daily rhythms. Most of us concentrate best at particular times of the day. If you don't already know which time is best for you, try this exercise. In a notebook, make a daily record of your concentration at specific times of day. Rate each time from 1, not able to focus at all, to 7, perfect. Record each day on a separate page so that you are not influenced by your previous ratings. When you've done this for at least a week, look back through all your ratings and see which times of day were best for you. Your focus style. Confronted by an unfamiliar challenge or problem, most people tend to focus on the information available in one of two distinctly different ways, each of which has advantages and drawbacks. Discover your preferred style by answering A or B to each of the following statements. Discover your focus style. 1. When choosing a new electrical item, I principally base my decision on A. Product reviews and careful comparison of features. B. Which one I feel most drawn to by its look or feel. 2. When deciding on a vacation destination, I usually A. Conduct in-depth research and take my time. B. Choose on the basis of what catches my eye. 3. When deciding on a course of action, I A. Plan the steps that lead to my carefully specified goal. B. Know roughly what my goal is, but work out how best to get there as I go. 4. I feel happiest when I know A. The single best way of achieving a particular goal. B. The full range of options open to me. 5. When working toward a solution to a complex problem, I A. Proceed one step at a time. B. Keep my eyes on the big picture. 6. I firmly believe that what matters most in life is A. Achieving clearly defined goals. B. Exploring the full range of possibilities. 7. When working toward a goal, I prefer to A. Follow a detailed plan. B. Think on my feet as I go along. 8. I would sooner learn how to do something by A. Studying it in depth and mastering the rules. B. Finding out by trial and error. 9. If I lose something at home, I start by A. Methodically searching all the places where it could be. B. Having a quick look around the most likely places. 10. When solving a problem, I spend more time on A. Studying all the details. B. Coming up with as many different solutions as possible. Count up your A responses and then your B responses, and we'll interpret your conclusions. What your focus style means. If you had more A's than B's, then your natural focus style is that of a pathfinder. More B's than A's means that your focus style is that of a pilot. An equal or nearly equal number of A's and B's indicates that you can switch style according to the problem or decision. The ideal is to be proficient in both styles of focus, since this promotes flexible, creative, highly adaptive thinking. Pathfinders. Pathfinders adopt a methodical, step-by-step approach to gathering information and are detail-oriented. This style works best when there could be factors that need to be uncovered and when you have plenty of time. It's most effective for technical problems and for convergent problems, which have single or few solutions. The main drawback is that it leads you to expect just one solution when there might be multiple ones. Use the Pathfinder style by collecting as many facts as possible, studying how others have solved similar problems, writing down all of your possible options and listing their pros and cons, plotting every step toward your goal. Pilots. Pilots prefer to take a broader, high-level view of information. They tend to rely on intuition, gut feelings, and hunches, often based on previous experience, as they seek many possible solutions. The pilot style works best with divergent problems, which have several equally viable answers. It offers original, creative solutions. It's also ideal if time is short or for situations in which rules can change or new options arise rapidly. The drawback of the pilot style is that in cases where there are just one or a few solutions, but the way to reach them isn't obvious, this approach won't help you to identify the steps you need to take. Use the pilot style by considering the big picture and gaining a broad overview of possible solutions. Use creative techniques to generate a list of as many solutions as possible. Starting off by making any move which takes you closer to your goal and then reconsidering your options. Trusting yourself and recognizing that your gut feelings about a choice can often give rise to the best decision. There are tips in Chapters 3 and 4 on improving Pathfinder skills, and Chapter 2 includes guidance on improving pilot skills. When and how to multitask. Busy lifestyles often require us to perform several different tasks at once. Multitasking is a useful skill, but we also need to learn to recognize when attempting too many things is likely to disrupt our focus and prevent us from carrying out jobs quickly or effectively. Conflicting demands on the mind. Doing several tasks at once presents few difficulties when these activities are routine, but in more important and mentally demanding challenges, such as making a life-changing decision, writing reports at work, or helping a child with homework, multitasking can prove counterproductive. Attempting to do too many things simultaneously, or even in rapid succession, results in poor levels of attention, loss of concentration, impaired memory, and frequently, error-prone thinking. The main reason for these failures lies in the fact that multitasking divides the brain's processing power between the different activities, significantly reducing its ability to work efficiently, especially when tasks make very similar demands. Different parts of the brain specialize in different activities, such as listening, looking, movement, and language. Multitasking is hardest and can cause most problems whenever two or more separate tasks require the same mode of thought and so involve the same brain regions. Examples include trying to attend to two different conversations at once, conflicting listening tasks, conducting a phone conversation while reading, conflicting language tasks, or that old party favorite of attempting to rub your stomach and pat your head at the same time, conflicting movement tasks. Effective multitasking. The following practical tips will help you to cope with two or more activities at the same time and still maintain the quality of your thinking in each task. Don't mix tasks needing the same skills, such as dialing on a phone while driving, both movement tasks. Mixing tasks that use different skills is less of a problem, such as listening to music while driving, a listening task plus a movement task. If you like listening to music when reading or writing, try playing only instrumental pieces with no lyrics to make demands on your language processing centers. Or tune into a foreign radio station on which the lyrics and speech might be less distracting. When you need to switch from one important task to another, take a break between them to refresh your mind. Alternatively, intersperse complex mental tasks with undemanding routine activities, such as taking a walk or washing up. Stop. You must always avoid mixing tasks that might conflict. When you need your performance to be the best it can be, such as when preparing an important piece of work. When it's critical to avoid making mistakes, such as when driving. Setting priorities. To get things done, we need to focus our mental and physical energies effectively. The best way to concentrate on vital tasks and avoid distractions is to set priorities, rather than simply reacting to whatever immediately presents itself. Work and family, rest and play. Before embarking on any activity, start by reminding yourself of your priorities in life. There's no point in finding very practical or creative solutions if they're out of step with your own values or beliefs. Everything we do or seek to do falls into one of 4 categories. Work, including any charitable work and domestic chores, relationships and family, hobbies and leisure, including education for its own pleasure, health, including spiritual practices such as meditation or yoga. Which of these areas is your current priority? Which is the overall priority in your life? How many hours do you devote to each area per week? You may be surprised to find that you're spending a lot of time on one area, yet it has nothing to do with your main goals in life. What's top of the list? All too often, priorities are dictated by whatever requires the most urgent attention, such as daily work chores, paying bills, and responding to requests from others. You can become overly reactive, like a person standing in front of a tennis ball firing machine, frantically batting away an onslaught of balls, but never having time to pause to make any other movement. While life is firing the urgent but not important tasks at you, the not urgent but potentially life-enriching activities remain neglected in the background. Prioritizing the life enhancers. To help establish your priorities, draw up your own task matrix. Divide a sheet of paper into quarters and list each of your tasks under one of the following headings: urgent and life-enhancing, urgent but not life-enhancing, life-enhancing but not urgent, neither urgent nor life-enhancing. For each task, ask yourself the following question before adding it to the matrix: how will carrying out this task help me to achieve any of my priorities in life? Keep your matrix within easy reach and tick off each task as you finish it. Of course, you can't always avoid the urgent but not life-enhancing tasks, but make sure that these, or worse, the neither urgent nor life-enhancing jobs, aren't the only ones being ticked off. Take care to free up time for the things that are truly important to you. 2. Fresh perspectives. Taking a creative approach to an issue can help you to generate the widest possible range of choices to consider. By opening your mind and giving ideas time to grow, you may find solutions arising naturally. Brainstorming and other forms of creative thinking can open your mind to options you hadn't considered, or help you to see things in a new light. You can also nourish your creative side by tapping into your subconscious mind and by drawing on your powers of intuition. We're so used to thinking in words that we often forget we can also make use of these powerful, nonverbal modes of thought. All of these imaginative techniques can provide an ideal foundation for reaching effective answers and decisions. Cultivating creative solutions. While logical thinking taps into what we think of as intelligence, creative thinking often comes from what we might classify as wisdom. When an idea or observation enters a mind rich with experience in a particular field, it flourishes and can generate exciting creative concepts. The fruits of a fertile mind. Most writers on creativity describe it as an organic, subconscious activity, in contrast to the structured, conscious form that logical decision-making takes. People often talk of someone having a fertile imagination or a situation being pregnant with possibilities. Like a seed planted in rich soil, creative ideas flourish best in a receptive, unlimiting frame of mind. You could see the process as being like the gestation of a baby. It can be divided into 3 stages. Conception, finding an interesting question, puzzle, or problem. Gestation, letting go of trying to force an answer out and allowing the creative process to take its course. Birth, making time to relax in order to be receptive to new ideas. Nurturing creativity. While creative thinking is not a simple step-by-step process, there are some techniques you can use to coax yourself into creative states and increase your chances of developing ideas. Be prepared. Keep notepads by your bed, in your car, and to hand around the house. Good ideas don't just happen at a desk. They're actually more likely to arise while your conscious mind is on other things. Sleep on an issue. Often when you wake up, you'll have new insights. Keep a dream diary. We all have several dreams each night, but they soon fade from memory on waking. By keeping a dream diary, you're more likely to remember them. Exercise. Many people find they come up with their best ideas while their body is engaged in physical activity. Try walking, swimming, cycling, or anything that keeps the body busy but allows the mind to drift freely. Take it easy. Original ideas are most likely to emerge in times of relaxation. Conversely, research shows that the more pressure people have to work under, the more rigid their thinking becomes. A creative approach may lead you to an original solution, but getting there can be harder work than merely choosing from a range of pre-existing options and following a logical path. In addition, it usually takes more time, as creative thinking is best done slowly. However, brainstorming is an exception, as you will discover in the following section. Brainstorming. First suggested by an advertising executive in the 1930s, brainstorming has since become a popular approach to problem solving that is widely used in business. Although originally intended for use by groups, it's a technique that can prove even more effective when done alone. Step-by-step brainstorming. Brainstorming involves 2 stages. The first is based on simply coming up with as many ideas as possible. The second is evaluation. Set aside at least half an hour in which you can relax and will not be interrupted. Write down or type out 50 to 100 possible solutions or ideas that occur to you, no matter how crazy or even unworkable. Add a star next to any that create a particularly positive emotional reaction. The requirement at this stage is quantity, not quality of ideas. Stopping to consider them will inhibit the flow and may cause you to miss a non-obvious but ultimately optimal answer. Once you've exhausted all possible ideas, look back over your list and pay special attention to the starred items. Try rating these ideas on a scale of 1, useless, to 7, superb. Finally, Review all the ideas that received a 6 or 7 rating. There may be an obvious winning answer, but make sure you also look at further potential. Could any exciting but unworkable ideas be combined to create an even better solution? Or could an idea be transformed by being made larger, smaller, or even a different color? Visual thinking. Many parts of the brain, including much of the right hemisphere and the subconscious, think in pictures and patterns rather than words. When faced with a problem or choice, it can often be a good idea to give these more visual parts of your mind a chance to stretch their intelligence. Directed daydreaming and visualization. Our culture is primarily focused on expressing thoughts through language. However, we often overlook another powerful mode of thought at our disposal, our visual imagination. Generating ideas by visualization is useful not only for creative thinking, but also for managing emotions and for goal setting. When you're deeply relaxed, your mind drops down to first gear, in which it focuses inward towards sleep and dreaming, and you begin to produce brain waves conducive to generating mental imagery. This is the ideal state for making you receptive to creative ideas welling up from the depths of your mind. The subconscious seems to communicate to the conscious mind by means of images. Rather than being completely random or mere repetitions of what you've just been looking at, these mental images can be full of meaning. They can be particularly efficient at encapsulating complex, detailed ideas very quickly. You can access these images consciously, while in the daydreaming or visualizing state of mind, dive down into your subconscious and retain any that seem particularly powerful or significant. You can then think about their meaning at greater length once you've brought yourself back to a normal, waking state of mind. Kickstarting visual imagery. Visualizing is a skill like any other. The more you practice it, the easier it becomes. Letting your mind wander as you draw works well. Don't worry if you think you can't draw. Or you can generate images in your mind. Alternatively, try these techniques to start the process. Relax and close your eyes. As you don't actually want to fall asleep, stay sitting as upright as possible, or set a timer to alert you every 5 minutes or so. Close your eyes and gently rub your eyelids as though you were tired. This action produces phosphenes, visual patterns resulting from pressure on the retina. Ask yourself what these flashing images remind you of. Stare at a window or other area of contrasting light and dark, then close your eyes. This should create an after image. Concentrate on the image and allow it to evolve into other images. Sit with a view of the sky. Gaze at a cloud and relax. Gradually let your imagination make shapes from the cloud's outline. Recording what you see. Psychologist Dr. Vin Wenger has demonstrated that describing visualized images out loud helps to strengthen them. He recommends starting with a specific question that you wish to put to your subconscious, closing your eyes, and waiting for images to appear. Then you describe, either into a tape recorder or to another person, the literal details of the images that you're receiving. Try also to include any other sensory impressions that your mind is giving you. It's important that you don't try to analyze what you've seen until after you've finished the session. Otherwise, you'll introduce assumptions that could influence the images. By keeping the recording of your session or by making notes immediately afterwards, if you haven't recorded it, you can refer back to it later. You could save your recordings or notes and build up a record of answers to particular questions. You could also use this technique to record multiple sessions for the same question, building up a range of perspectives and possible solutions. Scientific visionaries. It is not just artistic people who draw on their imagination or daydreams. Some of the greatest scientists have also solved problems in this way. For example, Thomas Edison used to sit for ideas with a notepad in a darkened room, and it's been widely reported that Francis Crick may have been inspired by similar imaginative reveries in working out the structure of DNA. Albert Einstein performed what he called thought experiments. For instance, visualizing traveling on a beam of light led him toward facts that contributed to his theory of relativity. The chemist Auguste Kekulé worked out the circular structure of benzene after dreaming of a snake with its tail in its mouth, while the engineer Nikola Tesla had the astonishing ability to visualize an invention in his imagination and know for certain whether or not it would work without ever constructing it. Tapping into your intuition. Intuition, like creativity, is driven by the subconscious mind and often appears impenetrable and mysterious. Unlike most types of creative thinking, intuition usually comes in flashes, giving you instant information. Just a feeling? When first approaching a problem or decision, it's common to have an immediate, instinctive reaction. Yet you might dismiss such feelings because you don't know how you arrived at them and can't always logically justify them. While not abandoning logic altogether, it can be very useful to pay more attention to these initial hunches, as research suggests they are more often than not correct. Intuition is more likely to arise in an area in which you already have rich experience. For example, we are all used to interacting with people, so it's no surprise that this is an area in which we often have the strongest gut feelings of liking or disliking, trusting or distrusting. Similarly, experts who have a lot of knowledge in a particular field are often able to make quick and accurate subconscious evaluations by drawing on their experience. Follow your intuition or not. Your unconscious can take in and synthesize more bits of information than your conscious mind can. So for complex choices, first listen to your gut instinct. But for simple choices, first attempt to reason things out. There are also two main instances when you should treat intuition with caution. First, if you're experiencing strong feelings of either fear or desire, as these could cloud your genuinely intuitive judgments. And secondly, when you're facing something about which you have little or no experience on which to base your intuition. How to make the most of intuitive thoughts. Step 1. Look out for fleeting first impressions as they dart across your consciousness like a butterfly. Practice capturing these feelings using the net of your attention. Take particular note whenever you have an emotional response that seems out of proportion to the situation. Step 2. Question your initial impression. What triggered it? What could be the reason for it? Was it some detail, picked up subconsciously, that your conscious attention failed to note as significant? Step 3. Ask yourself the question, what would happen if I trusted this feeling and acted on it? Step 4. Check your own assumptions to make sure that your response isn't based on a misconception. As we'll see, reactions that just feel right can sometimes be based on false information. Creative re-evaluation. Before diving in to solve a problem, it's worth taking time to re-evaluate it. By thinking about it differently, you may uncover a whole new perspective, which could lead to more surprising or more elegant solutions. A simple answer. We've all had the experience of seeing some new invention or solution and saying, "Why didn't I think of that?" Even solutions to complex problems are often surprisingly simple, and many of the best appear blindingly obvious once we know them. This is often the case when someone takes an idea from one area and applies it to an unrelated area. Creative thinking thrives when we bring together apparently disconnected elements. For example, an engineer called Percy LeBaron Spencer invented the microwave oven after noticing that a bar of chocolate had melted in his pocket while he'd been working near a military radar system that was emitting microwave radiation. Some leading questions. To enable you to bring fresh perspectives to bear on a problem, try some of the viewpoints suggested below. Is there a problem? How would you perceive your situation differently if you didn't see it as a problem? How would someone who saw the situation as a blessing perceive it? Try listing all the positive aspects of a negative situation. Are there any useful connections? Is there a factor connected to your issue that, taken in isolation, could lead your thoughts along a new and perhaps more productive path? How would others see the situation? How would a mathematician approach this? How about an artist, a child, someone from the past, someone from a different culture? Are opposites really opposite? We tend to categorize things as being the opposite of other things, but how would your perception change if you assumed that they were alike? Can books help? Libraries and bookstores have a higher concentration of ideas than anywhere else apart from the internet. Browse through any books that catch your eye and ask yourself how they might relate to your issue. A new angle. Most errors in decision-making are not errors of logic, but errors of initial perception. So looking at things from different angles is an essential skill. This can be particularly useful if you typically use the Pathfinder way of thinking. By taking a different view, you could find an answer that you might never have thought of otherwise, or you may find that the problem disappears completely. 3. Analyzing options. Analyzing your options is key to making a good decision. For example, if you're facing a problem, it's important to understand what sort of problem it is, whether or not it's actually within your control, and how it might change over time. However, all the logic in the world, even the use of mainframe supercomputers, will be of no use if your starting assumptions are incorrect. The quality of your thinking can only be as good as the information on which your reasoning is based. While we usually believe we're reasoning through our decisions, mostly we're actually just calling on past experience to guide us, or automatically responding to cues within our immediate surroundings without realizing it. As Anais Nin said, we don't see things as they are, we see things as we are. This chapter helps you to identify any biases in your own thinking, so your perceptions and reasoning will be clear. Convergent and divergent problems. A key part of making a successful decision is defining the form of problem or challenge you're facing. You need to ask yourself whether you have one particular aim or whether there could be more than one satisfactory solution. This will clarify your thinking and help with decision-making. Convergent or divergent. If there's only one solution to a problem, or a limited number of solutions, and an answer is either right or wrong, such as what is 2 plus 2, which airlines fly direct to Chicago, the problem is classified as convergent. If there are many possible answers and no single optimum answer, for example, what to serve at a dinner party, it's called a divergent problem. It's always worth bearing in mind that more problems are divergent than convergent. Thinking that a problem is convergent when it isn't can make decision-making very much harder than it needs to be, and you can waste a tremendous amount of time, effort, and worry seeking the solution when what is needed is a solution. The two focus styles described in Chapter 1 come into play here. The Pathfinder style, which involves a methodical step-by-step approach, is best for convergent problems, whereas the pilot style, in which you take a more wide-ranging and intuitive view, is most effective for solving divergent problems. Analyzing options on a convergent problem. The trick with a convergent problem is to eliminate dead ends quickly. Imagine that two walkers, starting from the same point, are racing each other to the top of a mountain. Each adopts a different approach to the challenge. The walker preferring a pilot style would typically start with any move that takes him closer to the mountain. The other walker, using the Pathfinder style, would first plot his entire route by checking out the terrain on a map. In this case, he would discover that a broad river lies between them and the mountain. His companion will only discover this when he reaches the water and has to rethink his route. The Pathfinder begins with what seems a contrary move and initially walks away from the mountain because he has learned that this route leads to a path that will take him to a bridge across the river. For a convergent problem like this, where the objective or the solution is limited and specific, the Pathfinder approach is more successful. The time spent gathering information about the route has avoided expending time and effort going down a dead end and having to go back to the starting point. Solution trees. Since most problems don't come with a ready-made map, it's helpful to draw up your own, in the form of a solution tree, to help you find a pathway to your goal. To construct a solution tree, you need to draw a starting point, such as a box marked Start. Draw boxes for each option, and draw lines linking them to the start. For each option, work out a possible next step, draw a new box for it, and link the two boxes with a line. Keep adding further possible steps until you run out. This process should highlight any dead ends and provide you with viable routes. Further uses of a solution tree. Solution trees work best when there are only a few options. But as the following puzzle illustrates, they can also help to identify more than one route to a solution. The puzzle is as follows. You're at a desert camp and need to share out your water supplies. You have a full 5-gallon container and 2 empty containers. One holds 10 gallons and the other 3 gallons. How can you measure out 2 gallons of water into a 10-gallon container? Drawing this out as a solution tree, you'll find 2 possible routes to a solution. Your start box is now a full 5-gallon container and 2 empty containers of 3 and 10 gallons. For option 1, you fill the empty 3-gallon container from the 5, leaving 2 gallons in the 5-gallon container. Pour these 2 gallons into the 10-gallon container and the puzzle is solved. Option 2 is pouring the entire 5 gallons into the 10-gallon container, then filling the 3-gallon container from the 10, leaving you 2 gallons of water in the 10-gallon container. Tackling divergent problems. If you're dealing with an issue that could have a number of viable solutions, where to go on vacation, which TV to buy, which career to follow, the secret of success is to use the pilot's strategy of inching your way toward a decision even when unsure of the exact path to it. Ask questions, draw up pro and con lists, and try creative carving to help you take the first step. At this point, some options close and others open up. Repeat the process as you work toward an appropriate final decision. Creative carving. This technique is an adaptation of the pilot's strategy of making a start on a problem to see where it leads. Creative carving involves breaking down a big problem into its most obvious parts, reviewing it again, and if the solution still isn't clear, breaking those parts down into smaller elements. You continue until an answer appears. Imagine that you're planning a family vacation. Begin with the most general solution, a few destinations that fulfill everyone's basic needs. Then ask yourself whose wishes would still have to be met. Could one of your choices be adapted to include more options? For example, if your starting point is a sightseeing vacation, are there any places near a beach to include a few days' fun for the children? Keep going until you've accommodated as many wishes as you can. A Venn diagram can help you decide. Allocate a circle to each of your criteria. The best solution will fall into the central section where all the circles meet. Focusing on solutions. Exhaustively going over the causes of a problem can prevent you from reaching an answer. In a form of therapy called solution-focused brief therapy, practitioners question the need to dissect problems and suggest instead analyzing solutions. Here are a couple of ways in which this can work. As if by magic. Imagine waking up tomorrow and finding that your problem has magically disappeared without warning. How would you recognize that this has happened? Go through the day in your imagination and list all the things, even the smallest ones, that would be different. This technique is more than just wishful thinking. By envisaging the details of life in the future, beyond the stalling point, you can free up your thinking and perhaps find a new perspective that helps you to minimize problems or even avoid them altogether. Accentuate the positive. Ask yourself, are there times when the outcome I want already occurs? For example, if your child wets the bed, the question to focus on is, on which nights does my child stay dry? If you need to earn more money, try asking, when have I already made more money? Or looking at it from another angle, when do I feel comfortable with what I earn? If you can pinpoint any factor that you can relate to your desired outcome, however small, try to build on it. The limits of control. An old joke goes, everyone complains about the weather, but no one ever does anything about it. While attempting to change the weather is obviously ridiculous, we often hold equally unreasonable beliefs about our ability to manage the unmanageable and control the uncontrollable. Where do you draw the line? Things we often try to control yet can't include the actions of others, the thoughts and feelings of others, the ultimate outcome of events, our own feelings. We may be able to influence and manage these factors, but ultimately, we can never truly master them. Things we can control include our own behavior, our own attitudes. List the elements of your problem that are under your control and those that aren't. Focus purely on those you can control. You could even rank these elements on a scale of 1 to 7, with 1 as the easiest and 7 as the hardest, and focus on those at the bottom of the scale. Don't panic. Many of us have felt ourselves frozen with anxiety in the face of a problem. If you ever suffer from panic like this, the following tips should help you to shake off the feeling and regain your power to act. Try to avoid letting your thoughts run away with you. For example, if I mess up this project, I'll lose my job, then I won't be able to pay my rent, then I'll lose my home. Use the stop technique to nip the panic in the bud. Write down the problem and any sub-issues, defining them as clearly as you can. Seeing them in black and white may help you to discern the limits of the problem and make it less daunting. Break the problem down into its tiniest components. and tackle just one or two of these. Completing these tasks can give you the sense that you're making a little headway and nudge you out of your paralysis. For instant de-stressing, take some exercise, such as going for a brisk walk or run. The activity will lower your level of stress hormones and raise your levels of endorphins, feel-good hormones, lifting your mood. The power of questions. When analyzing a problem, one of the best techniques is to ask lots of questions of yourself or other people. This can work because in the past, you or others may have faced similar situations and come up with good solutions. If you don't know, ask. You will be a fool for the moment, but a wise man for the rest of your life. Seneca, 4 BC to AD 65. Getting to the crux of the matter. Try analyzing your assumptions about a problem and your ideas for solutions by answering 4 basic questions. Why does this problem exist? Why do I see it as a problem? What would be the implications of using this solution? What would this solution give me that others wouldn't? Use these questions to break your problem down into its fundamental elements. For example, if your issue is whether or not to buy a new car, you might start by asking yourself, why do I want a car? 3 of the possible answers might be a need for transport to work, desire for greater freedom, yearning for a status symbol. So rather than defining your problem as, I want a new car, your real issue could become, I want a better way to get to and from work, or I want a greater sense of freedom in my life. By stripping back your problem to this basic level, you bring into play more options for finding solutions. Rather than restricting yourself to aiming for a new car, if you redefine your goal as, for example, finding better transport for work, this may open up further considerations, such as taking taxis, buses, or trains, buying a bicycle, getting a lift from a work colleague, and so on. Analysis by questioning. When next thinking of how best to tackle a particular problem or achieve a certain goal, ask yourself, what is my underlying reason or need? Brainstorm other ways of meeting that need. Look at the options you've come up with during your brainstorming session. Are any of these solutions better, easier, or more appropriate than your original idea? By using questioning in this way, you may avoid pursuing an overly grandiose goal or following a time-consuming course of action when a far simpler solution would have sufficed. Different types of thinking. There are several forms of logical reasoning that you can use in problem-solving or decision-making. The options you consider and the conclusions you reach can vary greatly depending on which of them you apply. Here are a few common types of reasoning with their benefits and pitfalls. Induction. Drawing general conclusions from the available evidence. The following famous example was given by philosopher of science Karl Popper in the 1930s. I have only ever seen white swans, so I conclude that all swans are white. Many forms of statistical sampling are based on this type of reasoning. However, the weakness of this mode of thinking is that you cannot use it to prove anything to be true, but merely to assert its likelihood. As Popper pointed out in this context, it would take only one sighting of a black swan to prove the conclusion false. Deduction. Drawing a conclusion logically implied by the propositions from which you started. As long as your starting facts are correct, your deductive conclusions will always be correct. For example, my keys are definitely in the house or the car. I've searched the car, therefore they must be in the house. The pitfall is that you may place too much confidence in your starting facts. Can you be sure your keys are only in one of these two places? Pattern matching. Applying reasoning from past situations to new ones that seem similar. As with induction, experts use this type of reasoning to find rapid answers based on their wealth of experience. For example, a doctor sees a patient with a red, swollen face and on the basis of past knowledge, diagnoses mumps. While this method of reasoning can be lightning fast, it depends on clear and accurate perceptions. It is best used only when dealing with situations that are very like those previously encountered and where the chances of coming across some new aspect are slim. Check your facts. Faulty reasoning can lead to poor decisions, so it's important always to question how you reached a conclusion and whether all the logical steps you've applied actually bear up under scrutiny. The following illustrates some traps into which faulty thinking can lead you. Thought wells and how to escape them. It's easy to believe that we always approach issues logically. Yet, in fact, our reasoning is often fallible. We may fall into traps or thought wells from which we cannot escape. Being aware of common thought wells and knowing how to avoid them or climb out can greatly enhance our thinking. Thought well 1. Denial or avoidance. Refusing to deal with unpleasant facts, either by denying that there's a problem or by avoiding the action needed to manage that problem. Example, you're sinking into debt, yet you deny there's any problem. Or while accepting that the problem exists, you avoid taking practical steps to sort out your finances. Escape route. This thought well is appealing if confronting or engaging with the truth scares you. To avoid it, remind yourself that however bad it may feel to face reality, denial and avoidance are likely to cause you even greater pain. Ruthlessly reappraise all the facts. Make the task less disagreeable by rewarding yourself with small treats immediately after tackling it. Thought well 2. Yes, but coming up with a variety of reasons, however spurious, why a new idea won't work, instead of exploring its possibilities. Example, friends invite you to join them on a skiing holiday that you know you'd enjoy, yet your mind brings up a string of objections. Who is going to feed my cat while I'm away? Suppose I make a fool of myself on the slopes. Escape route, use the PIN approach. First, list everything that is positive about the idea. Now identify anything interesting, even if not especially positive. Finally, consider any negative aspects or consequences. This PIN approach enables you to accentuate the positive aspects and remove or minimize any negatives. Put each negative to the test by questioning yourself, is this really true? What evidence do I have that proves it? Thought well 3. Group think. Automatically accepting the opinions of others, society, friends, family, colleagues, without first checking whether or not their assumptions are correct. Example, almost any statement beginning with something like, everyone knows that, all right-minded people agree, it's common knowledge that. Escape route. Assume nothing. Question everything. Ask, how do I really know? Rather than accepting things without hesitation. Consider the evidence in front of you before you rely on other people's view about how things really are. Thought well 4. Selective vision. Trying to make the facts of a situation conform to your previously reached conclusions. Example, you see someone you love or admire through rose-tinted spectacles, and therefore everything they do is right. This blinkered view can apply to objects and organizations too. An antiques dealer who wants to believe she has found a rare piece may be blind to any dubious characteristics, or shareholders may not question a reputable company's dealings. Escape route: to bring some objectivity to your judgments, try actively looking for any aspects that contradict the view you hold. Remember, however, that selective vision works both ways. Beware of seeing only the faults in someone or something, too. Thought well 5. A one-track mind. Refusal to recognize any need for new thinking. People tend to find it difficult to reverse a decision once made or abandon a course of action they've begun, even if they come to realize it was a mistake. Example: denial by U.S. motor manufacturers that Americans would ever be willing to buy compact cars. Escape route: regularly and stringently reappraise all your key assumptions. Never take anything for granted. A good strategy is to play devil's advocate with yourself. Can you spot the weak spots before anyone else does? What are you going to do about them? Be willing to consider reversing decisions if necessary. This is a sign not of weakness, but of adaptability. Thought well 6. Overcomplicating matters. Ignoring the simplest explanation or solution in favor of an overly complex or less likely one. Example: you can't find an item in your house, and you assume that a burglar has stolen it, rather than considering that you've simply misplaced it. Escape route: employ the principle of Occam's razor, the rule that states, all things being equal, the simplest solution is the best one. Thought well 7. Not my idea. Dismissing an idea just because someone else thought of it. Example: your children refuse to do something they usually don't mind doing simply because you suggested it. Escape route: suggest actions in a way that lets the other person believe they thought of it, or that allows them to adopt the suggestion as their own. If you feel uncomfortable with someone's idea, remember that it's better to adopt ideas on their own merits, not depending on who came up with them. Try adapting the idea by adding your twist to it, so it feels like your own. The baby elephant effect. The decisions we make are built on a range of existing beliefs and assumptions. But if some of these assumptions are inaccurate, they may artificially constrain us into following non-existent rules or lead us to believe we have fewer options than is truly the case. What held the elephant back? There was once a baby circus elephant who, when not performing in the big top, was kept restricted to a small area by a chain attached to a stake. Although when he was fully grown, the elephant could easily have broken the chain or pulled up the stake, he never attempted to do so. Why? When he was too small and weak to pull up the stake or break the chain, escape had been impossible. And this sense of what is called learned helplessness stayed with him throughout his life. Similarly, we can often become blocked in our own thinking by assuming the presence of restrictions that don't actually exist. Like the baby elephant, we may have encountered such restrictions in the past and assume that they still apply. Misguided assumptions. The following puzzles are fun, but they also serve a serious purpose: to alert you to the ways in which false assumptions can lead you astray or prevent you from seeing all the possible options. Take out a pen and a piece of paper and pause the audiobook if you want to try these on your own. The 3 links. Draw 4 chains laid out in a square, each chain 3 links long. A man has bought 4 gold chains that he wants joined together into a necklace for his wife. However, he can only afford for the jeweler to break and rejoin 3 links. How could this be done? Solution. Position 3 of the chains in a triangle formation, then undo the 3 links of the remaining chain. Each of the 3 broken links can now connect the corners of the triangle. Thinking that the 4 chains need to stay in a square formation before being joined together is a false assumption. The cross of coins. Take 10 coins. Make a horizontal line of 5. With the remaining coins, make a vertical line intersecting at the second coin of the horizontal line, with 2 coins above and 3 below. Move just 2 of the coins from these positions in order to create a cross of equal length and height, containing all the coins. Solution. The solution here involves placing 1 coin on top of the middle coin. Many people find this puzzle hard because they assume that all the coins have to be placed side by side. The number square. Draw a square on your paper, divided into 16 even boxes. Number each box separately, left to right, starting in the upper left corner. First row, 1, 2, 3, 4. Second, 5, 6, 7, 8. Third, 9, 10, 11, 12. Fourth, 13, 14, 15, 16. Place your pencil on number 1, and without lifting it off the page, draw a continuous line through every square, finishing in square 16. You may enter each square only once. Solution. The clue is in the instruction that you can enter each square only once. If you begin on square 1, this still leaves you the option to re-enter it once you have left it. A flexibility in interpretation that many people overlook. Start with 1, move to 2, then re-enter 1, move to 5, 6, 7, 3, 4, 8, 12, 11, 10, 9, 13, 14, 15, 16. Testing questions. A helpful exercise to test the accuracy of an assumption or belief is to subject it to the following 3 questions. Is my belief illogical? Does it make sense? Does it stand up to questioning? Is my belief extreme? Does it match an objective assessment of the facts? Am I being selective in my choice of evidence to support my view?
This is the end of the disc. The audiobook continues on the next disc.